Hi, welcome to Monday Crafter News. This is Caroline. Today we're going to do our bullet journaling craft, and in your packet you're going to need your notebook and the pencil. So stay tuned and we'll go over bullet journaling. This is all you need for basic bullet journaling, but of course you can get other stuff. We'll go over that in just a little bit. Okay, so hello. Obviously, you're here because you want to learn about bullet journaling. Is this volume okay?
Yes.
Okay, because the tablet's like 2 tables away, so I just want to make sure I'm talking good volume.
And I can adjust my volume, so.
Okay. Well, if at any point you can't hear me, you can either just speak up or put in the chat that you can't hear me, and I will adjust my volume accordingly. Okay, so let's see. Laurel, I think I heard you a little bit before we started. You know a little bit about bullet journaling. How about you, Barbara?
Nope.
No. Okay.
And we've got Billy and Elizabeth too.
Oh, yay! All right. So this is kind of a crash course. This is the extreme basics of bullet journaling. At the end of our PowerPoint, I can send this to all of you later. I have links and resources and book links that link to our catalog, so you can put books on hold that deal with bullet journaling. And
oh, great.
Yeah, so I'll share that with you at the end. But yeah, we'll get started. This is just really basic, and let's get to it. All right, so you can go ahead to the second slide, Shauna. So why bullet journal? This is a really good question. I asked myself this for a while because a bunch of my friends were bullet journaling and I saw what they had done and I was like, it looks interesting, but do I actually want to do this? I like my planner I have for work. Why should I change it? And then I realized that I was using my journal at home like a planner, and then it seemed like I was basically keeping 2 planners, and it really didn't make sense for me to use 2 planners. So I'm going to talk about why should we bullet journal, some key things to include in your bullet journal, or things that most people put in their bullet journal, and then, of course, like I said, the other tools and resources at the end. Okay. All right.
Rachel.
What was that?
I just said hi to Rachel.
Oh, hi, Rachel.
Rochelle.
Rochelle.
Hey, Rochelle, I'm sorry. Yes, Rochelle. I knew that.
All right, so we on the why bullet journal slide? All right, so why should we bullet journal? Bullet journals are extremely versatile. They kind of function as a planner, calendar, and journal all in one, which I really love because I try to make journaling a daily thing in my life just so I can remember what's going on, what I've done, and it's really nice having a checklist of everything you've done, especially on slow days when you don't feel like you accomplished anything. They're extremely versatile. You're pretty much customizing it to be what you want in a planner. So if anything we're going over today isn't something you're interested in, you don't have to add it to your bullet journal. You can just leave it out and make it what you want. Some of the problems with calendars and planners you can buy is they're very, they've got preset lines. They're very stuck in the size you can work with, the template. If you don't find a template in a calendar you like, then it kind of just ruins what you can add to it. Bullet journals let you make days of the week smaller, bigger. If you need your weekdays with more space, you can do that. If you want them smaller, you can do that too. You can make it however you want. You can use it as a planner and a calendar, but also a journal, like I said. I'll show you my personal planner throughout this, and at the end, I use it as a scrapbook, I use it as a planner, I use it as everything. It's basically my catch-all book for everything I want to keep. Let's see. As I said before, if there's anything we mentioned that you don't want, you don't have to add it. I've seen a lot of bullet journal pages and stuff that I'm just not interested in keeping. Like often I don't really make a monthly spread, which I'll talk about what that is in a little bit too. It's just easier for me to keep a week. It's just whatever you want. It's whatever you want. Yeah, so yeah. Any questions so far? No, we're good? Okay. All right. So getting started. I have a fancy notebook here with me, but you do not need a fancy notebook to bullet journal. If you look up bullet journal resources on Google or Instagram or Pinterest, you'll see lots of fancy stuff, lots of fancy artwork and templates and layouts, but it doesn't have to be that way. It can be as simple as you need it to be. You can use a plain old composition book for it. You don't have to buy a fancy notebook. But of course, if you want to, there are tons of options for books out there. I know seeing some of the examples can be a little discouraging, but this class is here to tell you that you don't need to be discouraged. You can bullet journal with just a pen, a notebook, and highlighters if you want them to add a little color. That's all you need. So this is kind of like the minimalist approach to it. Yeah, you don't have to be fancy. We're just gonna get started.
Yay!
Skipping half my notes, doesn't matter.
You go with the flow.
All right, so this first thing we're gonna go over is keys and symbols. In Ryder Carroll's bullet journal book, that's kind of where bullet journaling started, or at least the term bullet journal originated. He deems it really important to have a key for symbols and what they mean. That way, if you're scanning your to-do list, it kind of visually catches your eye and you know that you have a task you need to do or an event or appointment. And then certain symbols, are just notes. It kind of helps you pick out your day and what's going on. Personally, there's only two symbols I use. I use a bullet point and an arrow because that's what I used before I bullet journaled to note events and tasks and stuff, and that's what I'm most comfortable with. So even looking at this key on the PowerPoint, you don't have to use that. That's just a suggestion. Yeah.
So the arrow you use, is that the migrated arrow?
The arrow I use is, so I use my notebook kind of like an outline. So often when I use an arrow, it's underneath something, just saying, oh, also this goes with the thing right above it.
Gotcha.
And you'll see an example of that in a little bit too. So as long as you know what your symbols are, that's the important thing. You don't need to add a key if you don't want to. All right, next slide. One of the really important parts of a bullet journal is the index. The example here on the slide is an example of my index. So for my journal, can they still see me?
Yep.
Okay, so for my journal, I technically have two separate little notebooks. This index of what you're seeing on the slide is the little notebook that in the past I've moved from notebook to notebook to notebook. It's birthdays, yearly events, the things that I have to write over and over and over again. So starting this new journal for the new year, I decided just to put it in its own little notebook. That way, once I'm done with my journal, I wouldn't have to write this list all over again. So I kind of made that my own in that sense. But still, the index just lets me know what's there and what page it's on, because numbering your pages helps you find lists and stuff in the future. Using your bullet journal, like I do, if you use your notebook for everything, if I were to perhaps take notes on something I wanted to research or look more into in the future, and I just wrote it on a blank page in my notebook, writing down what page those research notes are in the index would help me find it later. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right, so it's just to help you keep track of where stuff is so you can go back to look for it. All right, now we're going to talk about spreads or layouts. So if you read the bullet journal book, or you even just happen to look up bullet journal stuff online, you'll often come across the term spread. It's called this because it often spreads across 2 pages. It's just a fancy name for it. It could also be called a layout. Having a vague idea of how you want to lay out your page for the week or the month will help you better organize. So I think we've got it on a different page, but we'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
So I'm just going to talk about the different types of spreads just for a second, and then we'll go deeper into that as the slideshow goes on. So yearly at-a-glance spreads kind of help you note big events that are coming up, or so like my yearly calendar has birthdays, anniversaries, the kind of things that happen annually. And if I were to happen to go on a vacation, not that that's going to happen anytime soon, I would be able to write that in there. That way I would remember when that vacation was coming up, like what month it was going to happen, that sort of thing. Monthly layouts are a more detailed breakdown of your month. So you have your yearly, then your monthly. Say for January, there are 6 birthdays in my family that happen in January. I have that on my yearly calendar. So starting January, I wrote down the birthdays, anything I needed to do in relation to those birthdays. So did I need to send a card? Did I need to bake a cake? And anything else I need, like what day do I need to pay my bills? Any major things that happen during the month that you don't want to forget to do. Mop the floor, oil change, you know, that kind of stuff. Yeah. So your weekly is more detailed tasks, like I need to make sure I have this program done on this day. So basically you're just migrating tasks from big picture to smaller, to smaller, to smaller. And then finally your daily, which is what am I going to do for the day, or what have I done? Yeah, so most often I don't get to my daily page until the end of the day, which again, I'll show you an example of a little bit later. But I usually just wrote down stuff I accomplished, any thoughts for the day, and a to-do list for the next day. And we can talk more, Barbara, about digital lists too, because I do both. Because I keep a Google Calendar for work and home just because it's easy to have it on my phone. But I also keep the journal too because it kind of helps me think things out better to actually write it down and have that memory of it. Okay, so let's see. What is the first one we're going to talk about? Yearly at a glance. So like I said before, this is kind of just birthdays, yearly examinations, appointments, that kind of thing. The top example is my personal journal, and then the second one is an example I found online. As you can see in my example, I just have the date and then what's happening. And the second example, it lists out every day for that month and then if there's anything that happens on it. That's too much space. I don't fool with that. So I just write down if it happens, if it happens and what it is. And then that leaves space for if I need to write a note, I can. Usually I make a note of, oh, I sent so-and-so, I sent my niece $10 for her birthday. That way I know I send my nephew and other niece the same amount, because you've got to make it even. It's just up to you, however you want to organize it. Obviously having a date next to it's very nice, because if you just write down grandma's birthday is in January, but you don't remember what day, that doesn't really help.
Yeah.
Doesn't help that much.
Well, what I like is in my family, we have our birthdays overlap. So we have multiple family members with the same birthday. And so if I buy a regular calendar, I can't customize it like I could for this. Like I have, and everybody has, some months have more birthdays or more events than other months, so you can make it work for you. So I like that.
Yeah, because like my family, we barely have any November birthdays, so I could make November shorter if I need to and make another space bigger.
Yeah.
It's very customizable. All right, so next we're moving on to monthly. So one of the things writer Carol mentions is that term migrating again. It essentially means reviewing items that you've already written down. So when you have your yearly at a glance calendar, you're looking at that, seeing what's happening, and then moving it or migrating it to your monthly, and then so on and so forth. The reason you migrate tasks is if it's something you need to get done, like a to-do list or appointment or something, if you're moving it over enough, you're either going to do it or you're going to be so sick of looking at it, you just remove it from your list altogether. So really it forces you to think about your tasks and goals, either, monthly, annually, whatever. That way you can analyze how you're spending your time and how to utilize your time more effectively. So like if I just keep pushing off, like, I don't know, what's a good example, Shonda? What's something we can procrastinate on?
Training for a half marathon.
Okay, if I keep procrastinating on training for a half marathon, which I know I would not put down to begin with. So if I put that on my calendar, I would put it off, and eventually I know I'm not going to end up accomplishing it. So I'm just going to either change my goal to be like train for a 5K, which is a more manageable goal for me because I haven't ran a 5K since high school. Or I'm just going to do away with that goal altogether and figure out a different exercise goal if that was my original plan, like do yoga once a week. That's a more manageable. So it really helps you rethink why you set this goal. If I'm not doing it, why am I not doing it? How can I make it better?
I like that. It's kind of like an accountability piece.
Yes.
Like it makes you look like how many times am I putting this off? So am I being realistic with myself? Do I need to reassess? Do I need to just suck it up and do it? Like I kind of like that. That's kind of neat.
Yeah. Like, is it attainable or am I just high goals? Yeah. It's definitely accountability. Yeah. So let's move. Any questions so far? Let me ask that. I know I might be talking a little fast. I get nervous and talk fast.
I think we're good so far.
All right, so we're gonna move on to weekly planning. All right, so here is an example of my weekly planner, and I know my handwriting's a little sloppy, but that's just how I write. So your weekly spread, a lot like your monthly one, helps you get a better idea of what lies in the week ahead. Yeah, a lot of the stuff I had written down for notes, I already said. So again, the idea is if you write it down enough, you're either going to do it or get rid of it. So here's my first week of January on the PowerPoint. I wrote this is, so you can lay out your week however you want. I kind of had to, since the start of January fell on a Friday, I kind of had to play with my layout a little bit. So I just put the first few days on the left side and then the rest of the week on the right side. A lot of weekly planners often put a little small calendar to the side. That way you can tell how far in the month you are. And it's just a reminder how far you are in the year. Where am I? Since you don't have the pre-made like a calendar does. Am I saying that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I have my goals for the week. I have learned to make my goals very attainable or else I am very disappointed in myself. So for the first week of January, I had start on new reading list and finish the book I was currently reading. I did one of those goals, and then this week I did the first goal. So I just migrated the task. That's all I did. You do not have to color code. I will tell you that this is my own weird personal.
Hey, I do it too. It's not weird.
So Shauna and I are both still in school. I keep a color for each of the classes I'm in. I keep a color for important stuff. So pink, because it's bright and boom, it's close enough to red. I know what's going on. And then I have a highlighter color for work and home. I highlight stuff when I get it finished. That way I can go back and see visually in color how much I accomplished. Because like when I just check something off, it doesn't really do it for me. So I color code after I finished. And then of course, my eye is drawn to what's empty. So that tells me, oh, I need to look at that closer. Is that something I need to finish this week or can it be moved? As you can see, I have bullet points for everything and I just mark it off as I'm done. That's my personal thing. Use whatever symbols you want. What else here? You can see like on Tuesday the 5th, I put arrows for arrows beside some tasks. That means I didn't get it finished, so I moved it to the next day. And you can see that I did move it to the next day. So really that's just a way to keep track of stuff you need to do for the week, like you would in a regular planner. It's just you're making it look how you want, and then putting any extra notes in. Because I can go ahead and tell you my extra notes that I usually have in a week would not fit in a regular planner. Because there's just not enough space. They don't put enough space in the notes section on planners. All right, now to daily. So daily is the fun one in my opinion, because that is where I have what I've done for the day, thoughts, reflections. It is my journal. Like I even put stickers that I found on the apple I ate, or you know, the
banana stickers right now.
Yes, banana stickers right now that look like famous people. You know, the cute little sayings on tea bags. You know, it's your place to be creative or even just write down the stuff that you did. It's just keeping track of.
And one thing that I've used with mine, and I called mine day books, was this was my gratitude journal, so that I could end the day or start the day, depending on what point in my life I was at, with my gratitudes for the day. And I like doing that because you can go back and look through a lot of that stuff. It's kind of, I don't remember the person who came up with your emotional bank, like putting things into your emotional bank and taking things out of your emotional bank, but
Mhm.
that becomes a good place for me to like read. I don't know. I can't remember.
Assess.
Yeah, and
Maybe.
just fill myself up for a little bit and
Mhm.
remember what I've got to be grateful for. So I do like the daily part, and that's the journal part of bullet journaling too.
Yeah.
Like,
And like you can see in the example I put to the right that I have a today I did this, and then I usually put like my thoughts or expand on something, just journaling, and then I've been trying to journal for at least 5 minutes after I put my son to bed, and that gives me a chance to just reflect about the day. And if I can't finish the whole page, I've been usually doodling or brainstorming or whatever. I've been trying to do it for today I accomplished. So I've been trying to keep it positive because we're making 2021 the year of positivity.
yes.
Yes. So I've been trying to put my gratitudes, or today I accomplished finishing that book that it took me a month to read. Like, that's a big accomplishment. I didn't think I would ever finish it. But yeah, it's just however you want to make it. You can use symbols like on the left example or not. It's up to you. Let's see. Any other questions so far? I know my next page is the resources. I feel like I've kind of zoomed through this.
That's okay. You can leave it open. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put Caroline's contact information up so that if you want a copy of the PowerPoint with the examples, and then the resources are also hyperlinked and included, if you will just email her, then she will send you a PDF of the PowerPoint so that you can have access to that, to those examples and resources.
And I can include my speaker notes too. That way you have what I've said, because I know how annoying that can be when you don't remember exactly what was said.